Hey guys, it's Sarah from Just My Typewriter and was minding my own business in a local Goodwill when a typewriter from the sky landed in my lap, and I couldn't leave it behind. The handle was missing, as was the latch. It was also missing a key top, and it reeked of WD-40. Nothing a bit of patience can't figure out on this SEARS citation 88. I was able to find the missing lucky number 7 in the case, so I quickly popped that back on, and then I went to tackle the spacebar. The rest took a bit of creativity. I started with cleaning the case and then taking apart the casing of the machine so I could clean the internals and rid it of residue. The structure of the machine itself is based on a Smith Corona machine from the late 1960s and early 70s, so it's very similar to some of the machines I had worked on previously. The lid comes off, as does the back, and then there are 2 side panels screwed into the frame. I also removed the platen. This one has a great, easily removable platen that lifts out with one of the knobs. Then I did a quick internal cleaning with mineral spirits and compressed air. My thought was that the WD-40 was used to loosen up some of the sticky keys, so I definitely needed to remove that from the machine. I also cleaned the external panels and platen and reassembled the machine. And now the case. I found this little latch on the floor of the Goodwill under the shelf, and my thought was that the whole case was dropped, resulting in shattering the handle and the latching mechanism. This poses 2 problems. There's no way to carry the machine without a handle, and even if I were to find a handle replacement, without the latch, the lid wouldn't stay closed. I did a bit of research on the latch. There's a fantastic Facebook group for case repair, which I will include below, as well as a great tutorial by Dwayne on how to replace the Samsonite case handles and latches, also linked below. Even if I had found a way to reinsert the latch, a key component was missing, the key latch, which holds the little springs in place. I emailed Bet Runs Village, a suitcase repair and supply store, about the handle, as I've used their handles before, but they mentioned that they didn't have any Samsonite repair pieces, and it's hard to find those latches intact. On to plan B, thrifted finds. For the handle, I found a bunch of drawer pulls at my local Habitat for Humanity. I had measured the original holes in the case, and while all of these options were the right size, in the thrift aisle, when I got home, they were just slightly off, and the screws were too long for the thin case material. I was able to bend the middle of this brass handle just slightly to shorten the length of the handle, and I swapped the screws with a few random replacements from my stash. This isn't the most ergonomic handle, but the style fits the case and it is secure. For the latch, you can buy case latches and add them, and while that might be a good option, I was worried about the lip of the case impeding their ability to close. I first tried these luggage straps to see if they would hold the case closed, but they were too long and I couldn't shorten them enough to provide it a snug fit. My second thought was belts. I had thrifted a few and finally landed on a combination of a leather belt and a stretchy one for the sides. I did a few lift tests and it seemed to work. It does make the handle harder to use because of the bulk under the handle, but placement on the sides didn't provide enough closure, and none of the other handles I had would warp in the middle to the right length for the holes already in the case. So it's not perfect, but it's safe. Time for a type test. The type test revealed that the period key would get stuck on the way back down into the basket, so I did another round of mineral spirits in the type basket and eventually realized that the linkages were just getting stuck on the neighboring keys, so a bit of bending was necessary. And with that, we had a working machine. I was really excited to find this SEARS Citation 88 in the wild. I've had a few rebadged machines before, and this is a rebadged Smith Corona body made for SEARS, so they would use a lot of similar components with just a little bit of a redesign. There's some really great articles out there by Ted Munk of the Typewriter database, which I've linked down below, where he looks a little bit into the Tower brand, which is the SEARS in-house brand of typewriters. And they had a lot of different machines that were built to look like Smith Corona machines. This one looks more like a Galaxy body design, which I have had in my collection. They have the Tower President, which kind of looks like the 5 Series, but they are matching in style to some of those original machine body types. I have had a Tower Chieftain as well, and that was based on an Olivetti machine. But the great thing about these tower machines based on the Smith Coronas is that I already know I like the Smith Coronas, how they're built, how they type. I just think they're really well manufactured. So this Sears Citation, while not a Smith Corona in branding, is going to have those same components to it. Another reason, and maybe this is a little bit fangirly or selfish, that I wanted to try the Sears 88 is that it's very similar to the Cutlass. The Sears Cutlass machine, which is like a red typewriter, also based on the Galaxy design, and a Sears Cutlass was used in the Taylor Swift Red music video, so I really wanted one of those. It's a really well-built machine. The typing action is really nice. There are a few things that I don't necessarily love about the design. The first being the spacebar is integrated into the front panel of the machine, so it's around the same spacing as your side panels. It does mean that it can get a little bit touchy or bent in a couple different ways. When I first got the machine, I had assumed it had been dropped, probably in the case, and when it was dropped, I think the whole machine jolted forward in the casing because the spacebar itself was bent out of shape. And so I had to go back in and do a little bit of forming there to get it integrated with that front panel. It was a little bit touchy. I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about that placement. In the Galaxy design machines, hi, please don't fight. No, okay, all right, no hitting, no hitting. One thing that I've learned about working on the Galaxy machines, or at least typing with the Galaxy machines, and then by extension this Sears 88 as well, is that I don't necessarily like how the keys fit into this machine. I've mostly worked with Smith Coronas. Uh-oh. No, wait. Are you fighting? That's not very nice. Having typed a lot more with the Galaxy machines, and then by extension this Sears 88, I will say the typing experience is not my favorite. I much prefer the 5 Series, and I think the reason is because of these high sides. Now this one has, I feel like, a much thinner keyboard, or it feels much more condensed with a higher pitch, but something I've noticed specifically on my Classic 12, which is also that Galaxy body design, is that when I go to use the keys, and I am a hunt and peck typer, I'm working on it, I feel like I have to really go over the sides and almost have an angled down position to type. So it feels like I'm pushing really far into the base of the machine to actually use it. I think part of it is the high side design on these. It doesn't feel like as natural of a slope. This is something I also noticed on the Royal Safari body types. There's something about the side angle pieces that I don't like. So I feel like a similar thing is happening here on this Citation, and it did impact my typing experience a little bit on this machine. I do like the key shape. I will say the key shape is also kind of similar to the 5 Series, and I do prefer typing on the 5 Series machines. But something that the 5 Series doesn't have is an easily removable Platen. As you get higher up in the line, some of them do, but this one has an easily removable Platen. It comes off with the knob. You just have to put out the variable line spacer and the whole thing lifts out. And that is such a great feature. I really, really love that on this machine. Something else it has is here on the keyboard, it does have a clear and set for tabs. I really like this integration into the keyboard. It feels like a much better placement than on the 5 Series. As you get higher up in the 5 Series, you have those as keys on the side of the keyboard, but I feel like it takes up a lot of space. And this is really nicely integrated into the side panel here, and it feels like it belongs in the design and style of this machine, as opposed to being a feature that just feels like it's added on. Some of the later 5 Series machines, I just don't feel like it's well integrated. This fits really well. That is a feature then that is on a lot of the 5AX series and then Galaxy-based machines, so it's a nice little added feature. The case I really like. It is advertised as a vinyl wrapped case. I will say, unfortunately, this is the second Samsonite style case that I've had that has been missing a handle. I don't know if that's a common thing to happen on these machines, but on my Classic 12, I had the same problem, and I did replace that with a full handle. I will say it is really difficult to replace them if it doesn't have the latch. That's going to be an issue that's always going to be on this case, and I might have to eventually just look for a full case replacement for this machine, because as great as the belt system is, it's not the easiest to get in and out of the case. So that could pose a future problem. I love the style of it and the aesthetic of it, and it works, especially if you're not going to be putting the machine in a case for a long period of time, but it is maybe not the most reasonable conclusion to the case issue, so there might be a better way to do this. I do really like this machine. Again, I love Smith Coronas, and I do like seeing the rebadged machines. It's like seeing an in-between history of models for a lot of these lines. I've had a few Montgomery Wards, which are mostly rebadged Brother machines, and it's an interesting way to get a budget-friendly version of a name brand machine. I think it's easy to shy away from machines and cases in stores that look like they're pretty damaged, but this one was really easy to kind of go through and fix and repair, and it does take a little bit of investigation to see how damaged something might be, but if you see something that's missing a key top or the case looks like it's broken, there are ways to fix it, and you don't have to be a fully trained mechanic to do so, because I'm not one. If you want to see more typewriter content like this, there are some more videos here on this YouTube channel, as well as on my Instagram at just.my.typewriter. And thank you all so much for watching, and remind you that you're just my typewriter. It's been so long since I filmed in person that I've forgotten my own outro.